So if you manage Linux systems, there's a pretty good chance you're using a tool every single day that has been, believe it or not, obsolete since 2001. Today, we're not just going to learn about its replacement, we're talking about a really critical upgrade to your whole diagnostic toolkit. Let's break down why this is such a big deal.
Okay, I want you to stop for a second and ask yourself a serious question. That tool you always reach for to solve a network problem, could it actually be making things worse? I mean, could it literally be harming your server's performance at the exact moment it's most vulnerable?
Picture this. Your web server is just crawling, connections are timing out, and you SSH in to figure out what's going on. You type that classic command, netstat np, and all of a sudden, the system load, which was already high, just spikes through the roof. The very tool you used to find the problem has now become part of the problem. And this isn't some hypothetical scenario. This is a real danger on modern busy systems.
All right, so why does this happen? What's the deal here? In this first section, we're going to pull back the curtain and really get into the hidden architectural flaw that makes netstat such a liability on any system with, a decent amount of network traffic.
This slide, this is the whole ballgame right here. It really gets to the core of the problem. See, netstat works by reading a gigantic text file that the kernel makes, this proc/net/tcp file. It's kind of like asking a librarian to read the entire library catalog out loud from start to finish. Now compare that to SS. It uses a modern, efficient binary API called netlink to ask a very specific question. That's like using a computer to search the catalog for one specific book. The difference in efficiency, it's just staggering.
And this just lays out how incredibly wasteful the whole process is. When you run a command you've probably run a million times, netstat pipe grep, you're kicking off this cascade of inefficiency. First, the kernel has to work its tail off to dump everything. Then, netstat, in user space, has to read that potentially massive file. And then, finally, grep has to wade through all of that output, throwing away almost all of it, just to find the one line you actually cared about. It's total brute force, and it puts a really dangerous load on the system.
So, if that's the old, clunky way, let's look at the modern approach. We really need to stop thinking of SS as just a simple replacement. It's a fundamentally different and way superior class of tool. You should think of it as a surgical query tool that's designed for the modern kernel.
Now, the good news is that migrating your muscle memory is actually super easy. The developer of SS was really smart about this and kept many of the common flags the same. As you can see on this Rosetta Stone, your go-to command, netstat tulnp, just becomes ss tulnp. For the most common stuff you do, the transition is almost seamless. So there's really no excuse not to switch.
But this is where SS just completely leaves netstat in the dust. The quote on the screen says it all. Instead of just dumping a mountain of text that you have to filter later with grep, SS has this incredibly powerful query engine. I mean, look at that command. That whole filter, the part in parentheses, gets sent directly to the kernel. And the kernel uses its own super efficient data structures to find only the sockets that match. This is a true query, not just some dumb text filter, and it runs with practically zero overhead.
Okay, this is where things get really cool. Because SS speaks the kernel's native language, it can ask for information that netstat is completely blind to. We're about to unlock a level of diagnostic power that was frankly impossible before, without bringing out some really heavy-duty tools.
With SS, you can go way beyond just listing ports. You can see exactly how much memory each socket is using with the -m flag, which is great for hunting down resource leaks. You can check out active TCP timers with -o to see if connections are struggling with retransmissions. And most powerfully, you can look directly into the TCP state machine with the -i flag. Seriously, this is like having a direct window into the kernel's brain.
Okay, before we get to the absolute killer feature, let's just quickly define one thing: round trip time, or RTT. All it is the time it takes for a packet to get to its destination and for an acknowledgement to come back. It's just a fundamental way to measure the health of your network. Just keep that in mind.
All right, so here's the crucial point. You've got a slow database connection. You run one simple command, ss-ti, and boom, the output instantly tells you the round-trip time is 150 milliseconds, your TCP congestion window is tiny, and you've had retransmission events. In literally 1 second, you've diagnosed that there is intermittent packet loss somewhere on the network path.
I mean, let's just be clear about how revolutionary this is.
To get this exact same information before, you would have had to start a full packet capture with TCP dump, which is a high overhead thing to do. Reproduce the problem, stop the capture, and then spend minutes, maybe longer, digging through a huge multi-megabyte file in a complex tool like Wireshark. SS gives you the answer, instantly and safely.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, given everything we've just seen, sticking with netstat is no longer really a defensible choice. For any professional working with modern Linux systems, making the switch isn't just a good idea, it's an imperative.
Let's just summarize the open and shut case for SS. Architecturally, it's a modern API versus a clunky old text file. Performance, it's a safe, surgical query versus a dangerous brute force dump. Feature-wise, SS gives you these deep kernel insights that netstat can't even dream of. And finally, SS is actively maintained, while netstat has been gathering dust for over 2 decades. In every single category, the verdict is just crystal clear.
I'll leave you with this final thought, which I think just perfectly captures the takeaway here. Sticking with netstat isn't about personal preference. It's about using an obsolete tool that gives you an incomplete, slow, and potentially misleading view of your system. The migration to SS is a professional imperative. Your systems and, honestly, your own sanity during an outage will thank you for it.